Get on board the Bernie or Bust train. Come get on board the Bernie or Bust train. Once you hear that clickety.
Good morning, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernie or Bust Show. Bernie or Busters, Centrist DNC insiders, Affluent Suburban Dems, who will blink first? Dun dun dun! An informative conversation with Donald Switlick, Facebook Bernie Sanders group owner. This is the group in question. Berniecrats Dem enter. This article is published now, so you can go there in the information section below. And then when you go there, you can click on Berniecrats Dem enter. Donald F. Switlick, also a member of Bern Report, the Bernie Sanders Social Revolution, and 3 other groups, lives in Oakland, California. On September 25th, I said to Donald, "You approved my message, and then I was booted from Berniecrats Dem enter." A few days later, Donald F. responded, "Not sure why, maybe an error. Join again. Send me your post." And then when I think he added me then, and then came this message: "Be advised that this is not an anti-HRC, anti-Trump, or anti-Republican site. We are issue-oriented and follow Bernie's lead in both goals and in his strategy of reforming the Democratic Party from within." Now that's a coded language. I'll just warn you now, that's coded language. Until Bernie decides otherwise, the debate is over regarding Dem exit or third parties. You wish. While new facts on the topic are welcome, posts supporting these agendas will be deleted. Independents and third-party folks are encouraged to register as a Dem and vote in party and primary elections for progressive Berniecrats, then vote as you please in the general election. Independents and third-party folks do not have enough candidates to have primaries, so you get 2 bites at the apple and we all win. Off-topic posts are discouraged. Statements of fact or arguments supporting a position should be accompanied by citations, or they are otherwise considered personal opinions only. While all citation sources are allowed, some are better than others. Vive la révolution! Révolution! That's what we need. Now here's me. I just requested to join. Donald: "I checked our activity log and do not see you booted. Also checked with the other administrator and she says she did not boot you, so... I still have a notification that you approved my article. When I went to see, I was no longer in the group. It says Donald Switlick has approved your article." Shit happens. Seems to. But then he let me back in. November 23rd. Bernie or Bust posts will not be approved. While we agree with everything you say, we do not agree with your solution. Bernie or Bust, a.k.a. Bernie or Vest. Then he talks about Victor Tiffany, the original gangsta of Bernie or Bust, and says that he's not a Berniecrat, and much like Jill Stein of the Green Party, Gail McLaughlin of the CPA, and Nick Brana of the MPP only believe in Bernie's goals, not in his strategy to reform the DP from within. I'd say that's fair. I've had a lengthy conversation with Mr. Tiffany, and this is his belief. And then he quibbles with Victor about voting third party as an alternative to voting for whatever blue candidate they shove in front of our faces. If Bernie asks us to stay in the Democratic Party, Berniecrats will follow Bernie. Well, we'll see. Voting for a third party under any circumstances is a losing strategy. I guess it depends on if you consider losing to be the people of this country losing versus Democrats losing. And there's where we have our disagreement. He says, erroneously, the fight will continue no matter what the outcome of the election. He's disregarding Bernie's long coattails. He's disregarding Bernie's organizer-in-chief capabilities. It's just false to say that the fight will continue equally well with or without Bernie at the helm. Our revolution will be here no matter who is the nominee. That's the Democratic sheepdog talking. And you'll hear, and it's kind of subtle sometimes, but this is a classic sheepdog. This is what a sheepdog will tell Bernie supporters. And this is what we have to resist vehemently. So I put my other Medium article, Bernie or Bust is not the main story. And the point of this article, if you want to read it, is the unpopular message that Bernie or Trumpers defeated Hillary in the last election, and they will do it again if it's a corporate candidate, such as Biden, Buttigieg, or Elizabeth Warren. 8:41 on November 23rd. Your articles are unconvincing, says Donald. The Democratic Party does not care who you vote for, as they answer only to those who pay them and would prefer to keep the game going and lose rather than be changed. As the political system is structured for only two parties, there is only one course of action, and that is to double down and continue within the Democratic Party to change it. Maybe, Donald, we should change it incrementally, huh? Bernie or Bust is an emotional appeal without intellectual substance. Our goal is more than winning the presidency, but to change the system. We think that Bernie has the right goals and strategy and will follow Bernie's wishes with the exception of a write-in strategy as explained. I do think we can be on the same side in the primaries and hope that a split in the Bernie-crat movement does not become necessary. We need a landslide in order to prevent a second round of voting at the Democratic Party primary where the superdelegates can vote. However noble, this is me again, however noble your intentions may be, the end result is that Bernie supporters will be sheepdogged into a heinously corrupt party. Donald has no answer for this. If Bernie is not the nominee, he says there will be no good solution. Au contraire, this is me again. We need to hold the feet of comfortable Democrats to the fire. We can't allow them to think that they can again get away with anointing a corporatist. We agree on that, but it is my impression that they do not care. They only listen to those who pay them. We need to push them out. As this long-winded conversation continues, what you'll understand is that Donald is, I think intentionally, maybe not, but one way or another, he's confusing Democratic insiders with typical suburban, comfortable, white voters who say they hate Trump. If Bernie does not receive the nomination, comfortable suburban Dems will be the culprits. If they really want to avoid Trump, they will need to face the facts about Bernie or Trump voters in swing states. These data-based arguments are incontrovertible. And then he intentionally, I think, confuses again. The Democratic Party would rather have Trump than Democratic Socialists. That is my point. Yeah, but you're not talking about the comfortable suburban people who vote in primaries. I say, my articles are convincing, and why not let the members of the group decide? Why do you feel qualified to decide for them? And why will you aid and abet them only to get Trump again? You are complicit unless you help spread the word that only Bernie can beat Trump. You know it's true. The comfortable Dems need to face this fact as well. It's a foregone conclusion. Bernie-crats, Dem enter, follows Bernie, and members are free to make up their own minds. Yeah, if they can be presented with the facts. Claiming I am complicit will not succeed in intimidating me. If Bernie is not the nominee, Trump is a probability. You offer no viable solution. Voting for a third-party candidate not only will not work, it goes against Bernie's strategy. And I should have said there, no, if Bernie is not the nominee, Trump is a certainty, and we can prove it. And then he accuses me of bullying, and I say, I will not allow people to be blindly shepherded into an evil fold. Donald at that point suggests that you leave our group then, and I say, Bernie or bust is necessary dynamite to unrig the corrupt system. Donald disagrees. Duly noted. Fast forward to yesterday, 2:25 p.m., because I tried again to put Bernie or Bust friendly article in the group. And then he reminds me Victor Tiffany is not a Bernie-crat, and he says the same thing I already read to you. Bernie or Bust works against Bernie because he thinks Bernie wants to work within the party. I'd say Bernie is happy to, well, I'll say this later, so I won't steal my own thunder. If Bernie asks us to stay in the Democratic Party, Bernie-crats will follow Bernie. Voting third party is his main problem with my argument, which I don't even care if you vote third party. I want to make sure you won't vote for a corporate Democrat. I tell him, preemptive surrender a revolution does not make. And that's coming from Kathy Padden. I love Bernie, but I'll vote for the eventual Democratic nominee no matter who, which is Donald's position. He's a vote blue sheepdog. He says, Bernie or Bust offers no solution to a Bernie presidency or to changing the system. Your solution to vote third party is uncoordinated. Which third party? Now he wants to dabble in semantics. Leaving the Democratic Party is a solution that the corporate parties would love to see. Bernie or Bust plays upon the emotion but results in cutting off a nose in spite. And then he calls my little sayings cute but irrelevant. And so I send him this article. He can't read it because it's behind a firewall, a paid firewall. But he still says that it's more irrelevant, cute sayings. I have reached my max and I'm not going to pay to read, but I know what it says from reading all the other failed Bernie or Bust articles. Failed, huh? Failed because you won't let them be heard. You want folks who do not understand the rules to make up their own rules and feel good about losing. Losing. You're going to lose, bud. You're going down. I wonder about a person who seems as bright as you can believe in a movement with no viable solution. Your solution is one that any corporate party would love. So then I read him this whole article with its delightful conclusion. Feel free to address any criticism or justifications for your derpy dipshittery to that brick wall way over yonder. I'm not fluent in fuckwit, and they don't have a Rosetta Stone course for it. I've already read this article out loud in a previous show. I'll link to it. Hopefully you'll see this little card thing up here that tells you to click on it, and then you can read it for yourself. Kathy Copeland Padden, or hear it for yourself, I mean. She is a treasure. So then Donald says, leave the Democratic Party. Write in your own name. This is like participating in a sporting event and expect to succeed by making up your own rules. Anger is a sign that you have no logical argument. And then I say, that was Kathy. But she has no trouble expressing herself, Kathy. And then I say, I am very aware of the rules. The DNC has been making them up as they go along, and we have fallen in line for centuries. And as much as I would like to assume that all of our conversations have been held in good faith, I can't assume good faith once I know that sheepdogging is happening. Once we accept on behalf of the poor who are not involved politically the continued ravages of neoliberalism, there can be no assumption of good faith. So then he goes back and again says we can't vote third party and that we have to take over the Democratic Party from within. And he says that's what Bernie wants us to do. And then I quote Kathy. And before you spout the Bernie will vote blue no matter who nonsense, remember this. Like every other candidate running on the Democratic ticket, Sanders was obligated to agree in writing to support the eventual nominee. I'm not bound by these constrictions, neither are you. Bernie will do what Bernie has to do, as will I, as should you. And then I said, Bernie has told us all not to listen to him. Jane quoted him on Twitter. Bernie said, don't listen to me. That's what Bernie said. So I go to this article here for your sake. Why did Jane Sanders tweet Bernie's Don't Listen to Me video? Bernie Sanders supporters noticed an interesting tweet that Bernie's wife Jane Sanders shared on Friday. Ever since Bernie endorsed Hillary Clinton, his supporters have been sharing a video interview where he said during the primary that his supporters may not listen to him if he ever told them who to vote for. Jane just retweeted that same video on Friday in a tweet that had the headline, "Bernie Sanders, the movement should not listen to me." That's conclusive. Screenshot of Jane's retweet, "Don't listen to me." That's Bernie or bust. Bernie has never come after us, Bernie or busters, and told us to cease and desist. So Donald's argument here is patently false. We are not doing Bernie's will when we are sheepdogged into the Democratic Party. And then Donald says, being aware and supporting Bernie or bust are not the same. Bernie agreed to the Democratic Party requirement for a reason. So he's reading into what Bernie did. He's trying to guess Bernie's motives. And I said, Bernie is organizer-in-chief. He knows that power concedes nothing without demand. He understands leverage, and he intends to take down the powerful. It may take picketing, strikes, and other uncomfortable things, much less comfortable than electoral leverage. Donald says, I think we have exhausted this issue. Perhaps we could work together for a movement to write in Bernie in a safe state. It's missing the point. It's better than voting for a corporate Democrat. But what we really need to realize is that it's already a foregone conclusion. Bernie or Trump voters take it all out of our hands. I take it out of my hands, take it out of your hands. There isn't anything you can do to stop the Bernie or Trump voters from making sure Donald Trump is the next president if Bernie is not the nominee. Nominate Sanders or lose in November. It's a fact, Jack. I said Bernie, that is, has mentioned how Puerto Ricans have been working to solve their problems. He isn't afraid of a fight, nor should we be. In Puerto Rico, they have people mobbing in the streets to demand justice. Donald says, it is not the problems that we disagree on, it is the solution. And then I say, until we agree that there is no good faith solution that ever involves voting for status quo corporate-owned Democrats, no matter who, our ability to coordinate efforts may be hindered. Voting for evil, and it is not necessarily lesser, can never be part of a plan that I agree to. Donald says, but what you offer as a solution is Trump, a corporate politician. And then I say, straw man, that is not what I offer. What do you offer? Because of the sheer number of Bernie or Trump swing voters over whom I have no control, I can guarantee that you will have Trump in the general election if you attempt to sheepdog them and us into voting for more of what we've had for the last 70 years. I offer an escape from the duopoly. The choice of whether that is Trump or Bernie is up to the establishment Democratic leaders. What I should have said there, and it's also up to the comfortable Democrats who could vote for Biden, Buttigieg, or Warren in the primaries. What does escape mean? How does this get anyone but Trump elected? There is no escape. That's what our message is, that no one seems willing to hear and spread. There is a lot of denial. There is only one way to escape Trump, and that is to stick together in solidarity. Bernie offers a better message, even if another person other than Bernie is elected. And he's substituting then corporate Democrats. Bernie will, and our revolution will, continue to introduce progressive legislation incrementally. You offer no successful solidarity. Which third-party candidate are you supporting? He's really hung up on third-party candidates. We don't even need the comfortable Dems to sign a pledge. There is already enough leverage. We just need them to stop telling landline pollsters that they will vote for Biden, Warren, or Buttigieg. It simply can't be a corporate capitalist Democrat. That's not a purity test. The fate of the climate is in all of our hands. Donald says, you are evading the question. The pledge does not say which of the many third-party candidates you support. There is no solidarity. What is your plan? And here I say, the point of the pledge is simply to ensure that only a progressive can get past the blockade that has been in place for over 100 years in the DNC to keep populist insurgents from being nominated. The will of the people needs to be heard. The party insiders need to be forced out of the way. Donald says, how does the pledge ensure a progressive as president? Then I say, Bernie will have no trouble defeating Trump. The big challenge is defeating the DNC insiders. The pledge, in effect, is that we will stand together and insist that no corporate Democrat receives the nomination. It's all about leverage, and it is not an empty threat, as the polling numbers show regarding Bernie or Trump voters in swing states. It's not an empty threat, it's a warning. Donald, I agree that it is the insiders that need defeating, and we have been electing Bernicrats to Congress and will elect more in 2020. We are changing the Democratic Party from within. Again, classic sheepdog language. And I remind him, Bernie or Trump voters cannot be reasoned with. They have already demonstrated that they vote in primary elections, and that's why Madam Hillary is not the president. The voters need to help. Without our leverage, the Bernicrats will have no hope of unrigging the corporate system. It's like a wildcat strike, which is essentially leaderless. Now, Donald still, maybe he's 77, maybe he is confused. I hope that's it, but to me it seems really disingenuous for what he's about to say. A warning to whom? The DNC insiders would rather lose to Trump than to Bernie. He keeps harping on that. I say, true enough, they would. That's why we need to make sure that they understand that no corporate Dem will do. And he still goes back to the corporate politicians instead of to the comfortable Democrats who vote in primaries. The corporate politicians are loyal to those who pay them. They don't care if Bernicrats leave. I remind him again, the Bernie or bust, Bernie or Trump voters can guarantee that Trump will win the battleground states unless Bernie receives a nomination. And then he says, but Bernie or bust plays into corporate hands. And then I say, it's a gamble. We are gambling that the people hate Trump enough to actually unrig the system and take the power away from corporations. The comfortable suburban Democrats are the problem. The rest of the world is coming unglued. There are riots the world over. The demagogues are going to be put down either way, whether through voting or whether through this kind of rioting in the streets. He comes back, how is your threat to vote third party in any way a threat to either of the corporate parties? It isn't. We are threatening the tribalistic Dems who can't stand losing, and we all believe that Hillary would have been worse than Trump. All of us Bernie or Trumpers, Bernie or busters, believe that Hillary would have been worse than Trump, and so would Biden be from the perspective of economic justice and ecocide. Then Donald slowly starts to see the light dawning here. That then is the point of our disagreement. I say they would rather lose to Trump or the Republican Party and keep their corporate donors than lose to Bernie and lose this money. But he's still talking about the insiders and not the suburban voters. Trump is a bumbling fool, but at least he hasn't supported TPP. True, but I am focusing on solutions. The solution is to hold the comfortable landline Democrats' feet to the fire. It's our only hope. They will hate us for it. I can live with that. But Bernie or bust does not hold their feet to the fire. They would rather have Trump. He's got the they confused again. He needs to look at this picture here, the triangle. He only sees two people instead of three people. He needs to see the Bernie or bust on one corner of the triangle, the DNC insiders on the other, and then the comfortable suburban Democrats as the third point. I believe that comfortable Democrats who hate Trump can be used to leverage the corporate insiders that he's talking about. Most comfortable suburbanites, whatever color they are, would rather have Warren or Buttigieg or Biden. But more than 60% of them hate Trump even more than they dislike Bernie. You still have not explained how threatening to vote third party will influence the DNC. Again, comfortable Dems who hate Trump can be used to leverage DNC insiders. It's a three-way standoff. It will get the comfortable wine track Dems who prefer Clinton-Obama legacy to agree that they can't have a corporate Dem. The polls should then reflect that, as will the early primaries and caucuses. That will show the DNC insiders that they can't rig it enough to keep out Bernie and future populists. He says, your issues are sound. It's your solution that is the problem. I say that the DNC would be glad to have us leave and lose to Trump. No disagreements there. Once rid of us, they could continue the game. But the actual voters have told pollsters that they will do almost anything to defeat Trump, and they need us, Bernie or bust, Bernie or Trump, in battleground states to do it. And we won't budge. It must be a true progressive. Oh, and then he says, polls are unreliable, unless, Donald, you agree with them. I do believe that Bernie will win, and this discussion may be a fond memory. It's not going to happen unless we unrig the system. But I will never agree that voting third party will change the political system or even the threat of voting third party. And then I tell him, if we ever sit down and play poker together, I guarantee that you will lose. And then he says, because I do not bluff. This may be so. Here is a prediction, Donald. Here is a prediction that may help your memories to be fonder. The convention will be contested, brokered. It will go to a second round, if not to more rounds after that. And only the threat, bluff, if you will, of not voting for their corporate alternative to Bernie will give us both what we say we want. And if enough of us in swing states threaten, bluff or not, to vote directly for Trump, that doubles our impact, especially if we actually do it. It's like a suicide pact. But it's out of our hands. There are already enough Bernie or Trumpers. That's this group over here. This is from the last election. There are more than enough Trumpers, clearly enough, that they gave Hillary her defeat last time, and they will give any corporate candidate their defeat this time based on current polling. The disagreement, I'm telling Donald, comes down to one issue, whether or not we should publicize these facts. Then he's throwing up smoke and mirrors again. We are discussing strategies for two different arenas, the convention and the general election. Bernie or bust folks may be able to play hardball at the convention, but I do not agree that having folks vote third party in the general is the best strategy. Hey, you want to play hardball, you want to play poker or hardball, either one, then voting third party, the threat of voting for third party or voting directly for Trump is how to play hardball. Dude. And then I say, because well-meaning but misinformed Democratic-leaning voters really should be warned about this, that's the point. I've already told you, it's out of our hands. The Bernie or busters can be reasoned with, perhaps, if you want to tell us not to vote third party, but the Bernie or Trumpers are far more numerous and can't be reasoned with. They are like a cyclone. Our only duty at this point is to warn those who may vote in Democratic primaries and to get those who typically do not vote at all to vote for Bernie in their state's primaries. Donald, I agree that the primaries are critical to getting enough delegates to the Democratic Party convention. We really have no disagreement except voting third party if Bernie is not the candidate and writing in one's own name in other Democratic Party elections. And then I say to him, finally, I was holding off until the last possible moment. If you like, I can pledge to you that I will stay home then instead of voting third party. But you can't force independents who have no party loyalty to vote Democrat in the general election if it isn't Bernie. And I was a lifelong Democrat. I'm not feeling any party loyalty to vote Democrat if it isn't Bernie. Then he says, I would not force anyone, says the sheepdog, but I'd try to convince folks to think of what the goal is. Yeah, well, what your goal is. I say it's not about the presidency, but changing the system by taking over the Democratic Party from within. You're not going to do that without leverage, buddy. Vote for the best way to reach the end goal. How does not voting reach a goal? I'd say that piling into the streets wearing yellow vests could reach a goal, maybe better than voting. Remember, it's not about me, it's about us. One is voting for all of us, not about our own emotional feelings. A soldier will be willing to go into the line of fire if he knows what the reason is. It's not about who is president, it's about changing the system. No, Donald, it is about who is president. It isn't going to happen without that bully pulpit. If it ever happens, it's incremental, it's just, and by then the planet is kaput. He says Bernie is the best path to changing the system, but we can do it better with any Democrat than Trump or other Republican. Bernie will act as a shadow president, and we will continue to elect Berniecrats to Congress, or for that matter, any progressive candidate. Now his cards are on the table. Now the true sheepdog speaks. He says we can do it better with any Democrat than Trump or any other Republican. This is the tribalism. This is the lifelong Democrat who just can't think of losing in any other way than if a Democrat doesn't hold the office. Donald, you would consider it losing if a Green Party candidate did everything that you say you want Bernie to do. That is crystal clear. You would rather have any Democrat than any Green Party candidate. And that's where you're absolutely, let me say this politely as possible, absolutely full of shit. I say we can work to convince people, but I doubt that we can convince the Bernie or Trump voters in swing states. I keep harping on that. And then he says the swing states are the most critical to stay with the Democratic Party. Dude, these are coal miners. These are people who have lost their jobs to Trans-Pacific Partnership. These people are not going to stay with the Democratic Party. These people voted directly for Trump last time, a big number. And they even voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012. They're not going to go back to the Democratic Party. They may enter to nominate Bernie because they do vote in primaries, but they're not going to vote for Biden, Warren, or Buttigieg in the general election. The swing state voters are the least loyal to the Democratic Party and the least likely to be sheepdogged. The landslide must come from the mostly white, comfortable Democrats who currently favor corporate candidates. It's all up to them at this point because we can't change the Bernie or Trump voters. And then I linked to an article here that you can go, the one I tried to get published in his group. And then he says, I think it is the independents and non-voters that are critical. Yes, but they're not going to vote for a corporate Democrat. If the comfortable voters understand that they have no choice, it will be because people like you made sure that they understood it before the first caucus starts. They should be smart enough to figure it out if only we can get the word out. And then he says, we need to convince third-party folks to register as a Democrat to vote in the primaries. Then they can vote as they wish in the general. That's fine, true. But many Bernie or Trump voters only vote in general elections. Again, they can be tough to reason with. That's why I focus on those who typically vote in the primaries. Donald, we are making great strides to get the word out for Bernie in our local Our Revolution groups. Now here again, this is the sheepdogging strategy that you'll bump into in many Facebook groups. I tell them your strides are much appreciated, but I don't trust the newbies to vote in the primaries. And the crowds at the rallies are great, says Donald. But I say, and I put this in bold print, but they are not proven primary voters. Okay, Sheepdogs. And then Sheepdog says, the young folks are great in California. UC Berkeley has a very active campus, and the DSA has a good one at our local city college, UCB Campus Group. And then I tell them, I teach college students at Millersville University, and I tell them they love Bernie, but I don't trust them to vote in the primaries. We need the older landline Democrats to understand. The massive canvassing, the Burn app and all that will only help after Bernie receives the nomination because the people that the that they're trying to reach with their massive canvassing typically don't vote in primaries. I don't trust that they will this time either. Donald says, we are trying to bring this out to the younger ones. Yes, to the older landline, and they watch mainstream media, and the rural folks who do not use the internet much. And then I say, mainstream media does not want the Bernie or Trump message to be delivered. And neither seemingly do you, as it appears I have again been booted from your group. Yes, but they are covering it more now. Donald, everything will be lost if we don't persuade the older, affluent, educated voters who vote in primaries to unite behind Bernie. They want to protect their privilege. They prefer the same old corporate candidates who have protected them in the past. They also prefer the Democratic Party over the Green Party, say, because it helps them feel superior to the Republicans due to woke signaling, even though they don't want their children to go to the same schools as poor children. Love me, love me, love me, I am a liberal. That's a good old song. You should go listen to it. Anyway, Donald says, not the older poor. I'm 77 and have been political from the first day I could vote. I was a Green in the Nader days, but the Green Party suffers from the same flaw as all the others. They are corporations. That is why the only way to change the leaders is to take over a party. Corporations protect the leadership. No, Donald, the only way to take over the party is through a voter revolution. The only way to stage the revolution is to hold the older, affluent, educated voters accountable to those who are lower down on this economic ladder. Voters choose if they will. The corporations can only influence, propagandize the voters. This is the message I need help spreading. We are sharing this as a letter to the editor of various news outlets. This is the letter I sent to the New York Times, which they've chosen not to publish. I think. I haven't received an email back from them. Notwithstanding the typical DNC framing, the existential threat the world is facing is not Donald Trump. He is a symptom of the disease, austerity economics, that is causing riots and economic ruin the world over. The establishment political philosophy, neoliberalism, is the true threat, and the billionaire class constitutes the clear and present danger that must be vanquished if working class people have a chance to escape needless austerity. Polling shows that there are enough Bernie or Trump voters in swing states to ensure that no other Democrat can become president. Unless Bernie Sanders receives enough delegates in the first round of the DNC in Milwaukee, Trump's re-election is a foregone conclusion. Bernie or Trump voters are like a cyclone or toothpaste that will not go back into the tube. Therefore, if you truly want to defeat Donald Trump, there is only one possibility. Democrats must nominate Sanders or lose next November. For details, see climate2020.us. And then in this article, you can link to it. And also, if you want to, copy and paste this, edit it, and send it to your letters to your editor. Then Donald says, we are spreading the same message. It is the solution of voting third party or threatening to vote third party that will not intimidate anyone. It's obviously intimidating you, Donald. We can only succeed by working with Bernie and our revolution to replace corporate Democrats. Climate 2020 is the same old voting third party going around in circles gets us nowhere. Donald, you seem unwilling to hold the older establishment Democrats' feet to the fire, and you seem all too willing to attempt to keep independents who have no inherent party loyalty from straying from the sheep pen. I guarantee you it won't work that way. The only way to keep our masters honest is to insist that we will not vote for their corporate Democrat sock puppets. Voting third party is just one way to say the following: no corporate sock puppets, no matter who. And no sheepdogs, no matter what. All right, so this goes on just a little bit farther. Bernie or Jane saying don't listen to us is in no way an approval of Bernie or bust strategy. No, it is. It is. It even had the hashtag Bernie or bust. It is. So anyway, he says this is especially true if one considers what Bernie is trying to accomplish. Bernie is working within the DP for a reason. Yeah, but that's his reason. Bernie-crats believe in Bernie's goals and strategy. We will do whatever Bernie asks us as the best way to change the system. Siphoning off folks from Bernie's strategy weakens our movement to change the system. Your incremental bullshit system. Is staging a labor strike or a protest rally an example of working within the system? Of course not. But it is an example of one of the ways that Bernie has said that he would like us to participate in his revolution. Donald, again, trying to confuse me. Go ahead and stage a strike at the DB convention. At the convention, we have nothing to lose. The general election is the issue. An argument for one does not necessarily apply to the other. And then I'd say to him, you may persuade me, but you can't persuade the Bernie or Trumpers. You seem unwilling to face the reality and to do the math. This coalition already guarantees that a corporate candidate will not win the general election. Please acknowledge that fact. And then please acknowledge that it is a moral imperative to get this word out to the landline diehard Dems. I'm afraid I do not know what you mean. Persuade Bernie folk? You may be correct, and many may vote emotionally without considering the strategic aspects of what they are doing. But the bottom line remains, voting for a third-party candidate will make a Trump win more likely and accomplish the weakening of any chances of getting a progressive legislation through Congress. Okay, this is how it is, Donald. Yes, persuade Bernie folk, to persuade Biden, Warren, Buttigieg folk, to change their minds, and then to tell the pollsters that they have changed their minds. Once a vote is cast, there is no more threat, and Bernie or bust becomes irrelevant. We will have Trump. Yeah, you got that right. Then the blame game starts, I say. And then he says, perhaps. But Donald, I will lay the blame on those who knew this truth and then neglected their duty to spread the word. And Donald says, I will blame all those who deserted Bernie and his strategy to reform the political system. And I say, you do that. Either way, we end up with Trump. Guaranteed. Not if folks voted for the Democratic Party candidate. We would still have a Democratic president that would be easier to pressure for progressive change than Trump. Nope. Bernie or Trump votes make that scenario an impossibility. We will not have a Democratic president. Denial! Wake up, Donald! We will not have a Democratic president because Bernie or bust, Bernie or Trump voters make it impossible. You gotta get this through your head. You seem unable to understand. It is not a Bernie or Trump only choice. Yes, it is, Donald. It is. And Bernie or bust and other Obama to Trump voters, they've taken it out of your hands. That's the only choice. It will not happen. The Democratic Party will not get anyone else besides Bernie to beat Trump. You will get Trump, guaranteed. I understand Bernie's strategy perfectly. Well, Bernie's strategy, if it doesn't involve leverage, won't work either. Sorry, Bernie, if that's how you feel. But I don't think so. I think Bernie knows what we're up to. There are far too many voters who will vote directly for Trump if they don't get Sanders. There will be no Democratic president unless it is Sanders. But your solution of voting third party does not change this. Who do you support for a third party president? I already told him I'll stay home. I don't even care if it's a third party nominee. Personally, my pledge is never to vote for a corporatist. That's all I care about. I will not vote for evil, no matter who. Okay, says the sheepdog, it's not a black or white decision. Some candidates and parties are better than others. There are different degrees of evil. Not to me. Not to millions of us who have had enough. You can't persuade enough of us. It's time to face facts. Probably not, but I may be able to stop some. Not enough. There's Trump and Hillary. Think they'll fall for it? Of course. I tell him again, the blood will be on your hands. But not Bernie's blood. The blood of the revolutionaries who could have been spared if we had only nominated Bernie before the world spun out of control. And possibly Bernie's blood too, if this gets as serious as I think it will. But only Bernie or bust. But Bernie or bust only guarantees that blood will be spilled. Who does Bernie or bust support for president? Duh, Bernie Sanders, and only Bernie Sanders. No, Bernie and our revolution will fight on no matter the outcome of the election. And I tell them, we will only have one shot at this, mark my words. No, we will continue to take over the Democratic Party and work for change. Maybe one shot, but you still have not provided a solution. Who do you support for president? Dude, I already told you, I support Bernie Sanders and only Bernie Sanders. The vote blue no matter who sheepdogs have only provided certainty that we will continue to have what we've had for the last 70 years. I support Bernie's goals and strategies, says Donald. Would you vote for the Democratic Party nominee that is not Bernie if Bernie asked you to do this? You know, this reminds me of Green Eggs and Ham. Will you, in a train? Will you, on a plane? Dude, my only promise, whatever Bernie says, my only promise is no corporate sock puppets, no matter who. And I will make that determination myself, as will all of the others who have suffered under neoliberalism. If you support Bernie, then you must support his goals and strategy. There is no halfway. Donald, you can't change all of us. You can't bring all of us to heel. I support an end to neoliberalism. I support an end to oligarchic rule. And then he agrees that is the ultimate goal. And then I tell him, and no sheepdog will change that. There are far too many of us. We will not yield. There may be many ways to a goal. When a general tells the troops to do what he says and a group decides to do it differently, there is a word for that. It's sort of like the troops in Germany when the Third Reich told them what to do, and they did what they were told. There's a word for that too, Donald. That won't persuade us, Donald. This is a wildcat strike situation. We are leaderless in this regard. We will not vote for a Democratic corporate sock puppet. We will not yield. Oh, emotion often gets in the way of reason. Sleep on it. We will not yield. We will not yield. Note to readers who have made it this far. Conversations such as this one are exhausting, but need to happen person by person all over the country before it's too late. Comfortable, affluent, suburban, Democrat-leaning voters who are likely to vote in primary elections abound in Facebook groups, although most of these groups have booted me, where articles warning about the danger of Bernie or Trump voters in battleground states can be shared. We could get this word out. The problem is that the sheepdog group owners will not allow the message to be disseminated. Please, please help warn your fellow Democrat-leaning family, friends, and acquaintances before it's too late. No corporate candidate can overwhelm Donald Trump's devoted base of supporters in a general election with the Bernie or Trump voters. It's not going to happen. It doesn't matter who it is. No matter who. All right, folks. I'm tired of talking. Can you believe it? Hope to see you tomorrow. Keep on burning.
Get on board the Bernie or bust train. Come get on board the Bernie or bust train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back.